Your Locked On Blackhawks, your daily podcast on the Chicago Blackhawks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, Blackhawks fans? Welcome back to another episode of Locked On Blackhawks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, I'm your host, Jack Bushman. Do me a quick favor right off the jump. Go and hit that like button. Hop in the comment section down below, as well as Mailbag Monday is right around the corner. And subscribe to Locked On Blackhawks on YouTube. It's 100% free. Will not cost you anything and is the best way to help me out in supporting the show. Also, going to be starting to roll out my NHL draft coverage here rather soon, and I promise you, no one is going to dive into each NHL draft prospect from a Blackhawks fan's perspective like yours truly. So make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any of that. And last but certainly not least, got to give a quick shout out to today's sponsor, which is Monarch Money. Take control of your finances right now by using the promo code LOCKEDONNHL in all caps at monarchmoney.com for 50% off on your first year. All right, happy Wednesday, everyone. Again, thank you all for joining me on another episode of Locked On Blackhawks, your one-stop shop for all things Chicago Blackhawks. A good start wasted by the Blackhawks last night as they jumped out to a 2-0 lead against the Seattle Kraken and put together a pretty solid first period, only for them to give up 6 unanswered goals and fall 6-2. They give up 6 goals in back-to-back games for the first time since March 2021 and just the 6th time this century. And as I put in the thumbnail of today's episode, the wheels are starting to fall off here for the Blackhawks with 14 games left in the season. They've now dropped 5 straight games since getting off to a 3-0-1 start to the month of March, just after trading defenseman Seth Jones. It seemed like the vibes were high. Yeah, those post-deadline mojo has now seemingly been lost by the Blackhawks as things unraveled in a real tough way last night and the Hawks returned to the United Center. It was a really painful watch. And as I put out on Twitter, I was shocked how many fans stayed until the final whistle, because it was a pretty disgraceful effort from the Hawks in the final 40 minutes. As I mentioned, though, things started out nicely with Chicago jumping out to a 2-0 lead in the first period. Connor Bedard kicked off the scoring with his 18th tally of the year, getting a fortunate bounce as his centering feed banked in off a Kraken defender's skate. And funny enough, as I talked about on Monday's episode, in my opinion, and I think a lot of Blackhawks fans' opinion, Connor Bedard has not been treated fairly by NHL officials this year. In the moments prior to him scoring that goal, he entered the offensive zone with some speed, appeared to be hooked on his way in. Of course, the officials don't give him the call, so I felt like that one had to feel extra good for Bedard, seeing it find the back of the net. Artyom Levshunov, by the way, with the primary assist, giving him a primary apple for the second consecutive game. Unfortunately, this was the only power play opportunity that the Hawks got in this one, but like to see Levshunov make the most of it. That's where he's kind of seemed the most comfortable to me through his first 4 NHL games, in the offensive zone, handling things on the power play. I really altogether just like the aggressiveness that Artyom Levshunov plays with, getting involved in the rush, jumping up into the offensive zone, the shooting mentality, trying to get pucks on net. It's kind of a breath of fresh air on the back end, as many Hawks fans, especially up in the 300s, have been yelling shoot quite often over these last few years. Levshunov, I do think, still has to kind of clean up the decision-making on when in particular to be aggressive, but that's not something unusual for a 19-year-old who's the second youngest player in the NHL in his first NHL stint. And then Tyler Bertuzzi, believe it or not, finally broke his goal drought in nearly 2 months since Bertuzzi found the back of the net. Nice little redirect on a shot from Alex Vlasic from the left point. Bertuzzi actually picked up the secondary assist on Bedard's power play goal to open up the scoring. So this was a 2-point first period for him. Believe it or not, it's just his 6th goal since the calendar turned over to 2025. Does still have 18 tucks on the season, but man, would have been so nice to see him continue to build off that momentum that he found in like late November and all throughout the month of December. He's just been a ghost more times than not here in 2025. I don't think burying him down on the fourth line has done him any favors. I don't think that's the way to kind of encourage or get a guy like Tyler Bertuzzi going. That's just my opinion, but nice to see him finally get involved here in the opening 20 minutes to help the Hawks jump ahead 2-0. But even though, like I said, it was a strong first period for the Blackhawks, they came away with the lead after 20 minutes. You could see signs that things were starting to turn in the other direction in those final few moments, as just 30 seconds after Bertuzzi put the Blackhawks ahead 2-0, Seattle cut their deficit in half with a goal from Adam Larsson. And then just a few moments later, the Blackhawks took a penalty, and you could just kind of see things, like I said, going in the other direction. And then in the second, that's when everything really unraveled. 4 unanswered goals given up by the Blackhawks in that middle frame to really take them from the driver's seat to completely out of it. And it was only on 8 shots on goal at one point in time in that middle frame. The Hawks had surrendered 4 goals, very similar to what we saw on Saturday night in Vancouver. And then in the third, it was just a really deflated bunch. They gave up an early goal. Shane Wright's second of the game. It was one-timers galore out there for the Canucks. Not a good enough charge from the Blackhawks to even get themselves back in this one. They wind up falling 6-2, and as I mentioned, their 5th consecutive loss. They'll try to turn things around as they return back home. I guess not return. They'll be back on home ice for the 2nd consecutive game on Thursday against the Los Angeles Kings. But a real tough watch last night as the Blackhawks give up 6 unanswered goals to the Seattle Kraken. Coming up in just a moment here, Blackhawks fans, I'll go through the Blackhawks' defensive lapses last night and discuss if there's any hopes of fixing this with 14 games left in the season. But first, I need to talk to you all real quick about Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. But that's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and complete control over your finances. And Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center because you can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place so you can stop just managing your money and start building your wealth. And what I personally love about Monarch Money is that instead of juggling multiple financial apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track your spending, and even plan your long-term goals. So go and take advantage of go and take control of your finances and take advantage of this amazing offer with Monarch Money by using the code LOCKEDONNHL in all caps at monarchmoney.com, and you'll get 50% off on your first year. Again, that's monarchmoney.com with the code LOCKEDONNHL in all caps to take control of your finances and get half off on your first year. I also got to talk to you about the fine folks over at Game Time. There's nothing like watching basketball live. The energy of the crowd, the sound of the sneakers on the hardwood, and maybe even a celebrity sighting courtside. And if you want to catch a game in person, Game Time makes getting tickets easier than ever. And Game Time's new feature called Game Time Picks filters out the fluff and shows you only the best deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time scrolling through thousands of tickets. And Game Time Picks even highlights super deals, giving you the best bang for your buck so that you can take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Go and download the Game Time app right now, create an account, and use our promo code LOCKEDONNHL in all caps for $20 off on your first purchase. Terms and conditions apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONNHL, LOCKEDONNHL in all caps for $20 off to go and see Connor Bedard, Frank Nazar, and the Blackhawks at the United Center before the season comes to a close. What time is it? It's game time. Segment 2, the Blackhawks, as I talked about a moment ago, are suffering major defensive issues right now, having given up 6 goals in consecutive games, like I said, for just the 6th time this century and the first time since March 2021. The weird part about it, Blackhawks fans, is I can't necessarily say like this is the worst defense we've seen from this team all season long. Like against Vancouver on Saturday night, yes, there are clear defensive lapses and there's breakdowns, but it's not the dominating pushes that we've seen from other teams from start to finish at times this season, right? Like the Hawks only gave up 15 shots on goal in that game to Vancouver. Last night against Seattle, before things really fell out of favor in the final moments of the second period there, the Blackhawks had only given up like 19 shots through 38 minutes in that game. And even going back to last Thursday against San Jose, they gave up 4 goals in that one, but it only came on 25 shots on net. So it's not like the 35, 40 shot on goal outputs that we've seen from other teams. Like Spencer Knight's first game, he had to face 44 shots on net in that one. We haven't seen that from the Blackhawks in these last 3 contests, despite them still having these major defensive issues. So it's kind of hard to like put your finger on what's precisely going wrong, but there are clear breakdowns. I talked about in segment 1, it was one-timer galore out there last night for the Kraken in terms of cross passes and seam passes. The Hawks just weren't sticking with their guys in coverage. There were complete breakdowns, huge open opportunities for Kraken forwards to just go and slap the puck on net, and it happened way too frequently. It was, they could have had 8 or 9 goals last night with the amount of high danger opportunities that they got. And again, like, it's not all game long, but when things really spiral out of control, the Blackhawks just have no answers. And clearly, from a bigger picture, right, they don't have the answers to go and solve these problems long term. And today, after practice, or maybe it was even before practice, Andrew Sorensen talked to the media and he said, they sat down and had a video session and had to be honest with each other about the way that they play. I mean, I feel like this has had to have happened numerous times throughout the course of the season, and they can kind of go and plug the cracks for periods and maybe from a game-to-game basis every now and then, although that certainly hasn't happened that frequently this season. They're using duct tape. They just don't have the answers to go and permanently solve these issues. And a real frustrating part of it to me too, Blackhawks fans, is I know this isn't the issue every single night, but it has been a problem more often here, in my opinion, in the second half of the season. A lot of the veterans are the ones who are having the breakdowns in coverage, or the guys that you would normally be able to rely on. And again, it's not a night-to-night basis. I'm not trying to like call out Alex Vlasic and saying he's having a bad season, but his second half certainly has not been as good as it was in the first half. And he had a couple of sloppy mistakes last night. The first goal that got the Kraken on the board, I know it might have been Spencer Knight's fault as well, but Vlasic, as a trusted defenseman, kind of flubbed that puck. That just can't happen. Leads to a turnover, bang, bang play out in front. The Kraken are on the board, the first of 6 unanswered goals for them. Vlasic also lost Matty Beniers in coverage on his one-timer goal. And then Ryan Donato on, I want to say it was Shane Wright's first goal of the game. He committed a turnover in the defensive zone. Nick Foligno had a breakdown in coverage I saw. Jason Dickinson had a coverage I saw. Like, these are the guys who are supposed to be the trusted upon veterans for the Blackhawks, and I'm sure they're sick of all the losing, and it's hard to give that consistent effort night in and night out. But when the Blackhawks are a team who have their backs up against the wall, and look at how young their defensive group is, having Artyom Levshunov. I mean, even Alex Vlasic is, 23, 24 years old? I'm not exactly sure off the top of my head, but Ethan Del Mastro, Wyatt Kaiser's in there as well. It's a super young blue line, and these kinds of mistakes from the veterans, the Blackhawks cannot afford them to happen. And I thought that was super apparent last night on a lot of the goals that the Seattle Kraken scored. It wasn't like the young guys having huge blunders. It was some of the veterans. And it's just, again, clear that the Blackhawks, they don't have the answers on the ice right now. And I don't think they have the answers from a coaching staff perspective to really go and fix this with 14 games left in the season, right? Like, they are who they are at this point in time. So while they may be able to clean it up for a game or two here moving forward, or maybe a couple of periods on Thursday against the Los Angeles Kings, we'll have to wait and see. Ultimately, it's hard to expect anything really different to happen on a game-to-game basis for the Blackhawks in these final 14. And as frustrating as that is for us fans and everything, it's not the end of the world right here, right now, right, in terms of getting a good percentage at a high draft pick in this year's draft. But next year moving forward, like, these kinds of issues and the consistency in which they happen basically night in and night out, right? Like, we cannot be dealing with this again next season. And I really think it stems from a head coaching perspective. I know Andrew Sorensen was kind put in a real tough spot, never having NHL coaching experience and having to move up from the AHL scene in the middle of this year. But it's just clear the Blackhawks, they really need a veteran head coach to establish some structure and some good leadership here moving forward. And then they also need some better pieces to go and help this team win some more games and not let this type of sloppy hockey plague them on a consistent basis. So there are my thoughts on the Blackhawks defensive issues. You kind of just got to roll with the punches here in these final 14 games. The Blackhawks are going to continue to play the kids, and they rightfully should. And like I said last night, it's not the kids who are having, these blunders every single game. Yes, they are going to make mistakes, but it's the entire team who's letting everyone down right here, right now. Do wonder if we could be seeing Kevin Korchinski called up for a couple NHL games here in these final 14. Should he get called up, I'll make sure to cover that and give you my thoughts on it right here on Locked On Blackhawks. But there are my thoughts, full thoughts following a sloppy 6-2 loss to Vancouver last night. Coming up in just a moment before I close out today's show, still have to get into my weekly Blackhawks NCAA prospects update. Real quick, though, got to talk to you all about Upwork. Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. And with Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more experts who are ready to help you take your business to the next level right away. And Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. So whether you're needing extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. So instead of hiring full-time, Upwork helps find you affordable top-tier freelancers to scale your business efficiently. Make sure to go and visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. Again, that's UPWORK.com to connect with top talent and to grow your business today.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the bracket breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
Back here on the Locked On Blackhawks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Just want to say thank you to everyone for making Locked On Blackhawks your very first listen here to start off your day. For your second listen, make sure to check out the Locked On NHL podcast, bringing you the daily league-wide stories that matter down the stretch of the regular season with the local coverage you love from Locked On. And you can easily find Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you may be listening to your podcasts. Segment 3, time for my weekly Blackhawks NCAA prospects update as we have some conference tournament games resuming tomorrow and all throughout this weekend, and also got to get into some noteworthy updates on a handful of prospects. Starting first was Sam Rinzel, sophomore defenseman for the Minnesota Golden Gophers, first-round pick for the Blackhawks a couple of years ago. Congrats to Sam for being named Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year and also named to the Big Ten first team. Phenomenal sophomore season for Rinzel as he wound up tallying 31 points, 10 goals, and 21 assists in 39 games as a sophomore. Unfortunately, their Big Ten conference championship hopes were dashed as they were upset by Notre Dame in the first round. Still going to be making the NCAA tournament, but going to have to be waiting a couple of weeks, not a couple of weeks from right here, right now, but a couple of weeks in between games to see who they're going to be facing. Do want to give an update on Oliver Moore as well, as I know there's been some talk about Oliver Moore and his potential offensive upside. One thing that I do believe has gone a little under the radar with Oliver Moore in his first 2 seasons of college hockey is how well he's played in the most important times of the season, aka against conference opponents. I know Minnesota got knocked out, but in conference tournament games and also when this team eventually makes the tournament. And we saw big things out of Oliver Moore in big moments for the United States to help them win gold medals at the World Juniors the last 2 years. kind of a slow start to each of his first 2 seasons, but really picked it up when conference plays rolled around. In his final 10 games of the regular season, along with the conference tournament, Moore tallied 6 goals and 6 assists for 12 points and also won 56% of his faceoffs. A true center iceman, a guy who I firmly believe is going to play the center ice position at the next level for the Blackhawks. You know, there's these debates around whether Connor Bedard is truly a center iceman, and I like giving him opportunities on the wing here with Frankie Nazar, who we're not even sure if he's going to be a center iceman. Sasha Boisvert, I think there's a good bet that he's going to be a center iceman, but still not 100% guarantee. Ryan Green, I feel like, could be a bottom 6 center iceman for the Blackhawks, but the most true center iceman that the Hawks have in their system is Oliver Moore. I know people might not think he has the highest offensive upside, but I do think the dog in him is significant, and there is something to consider with his foot speed, and it's not like he has horrible offensive attributes or anything. They are a little bit lacking and just seemingly can't catch up to his feet at all times, but I do feel like he'll benefit from playing with some better players at the next level. I don't think he's ever going to be an offensive dynamo, but he is certainly a capable offensive player, and because of his speed and puck carrying ability, I do think there's even power play 2 opportunities for Oliver Moore down the road as well. So I like to see Oliver Moore finishing the year on a high note, and also his 41 conference points through 2 seasons, the 4th most by a Minnesota Golden Gopher in Big Ten era. So Oliver Moore on just a fine track. Do wonder what's going to happen to him, though, if he's going to sign his ELC or stick around and be a head honcho for the Golden Gophers next year as a junior. Also want to give a shout out, almost totally duffed that. Want to give a shout out to Sasha Boisvert. That's a little bit of a tongue twister there, for being named a unanimous selection to the NCHC All-Rookie team. Is also a finalist for NCHC Rookie of the Year as well. Just dropped a short on Sasha yesterday, which also could have been a little bit of a tongue twister there, talking about where I had him ranked in my 2024-25 Blackhawks midseason prospect rankings. We'll be having an end-of-season Blackhawks prospect rankings as well, probably dropping sometime in mid to early May, if I had to guess, prior to the Blackhawks selections in the 2025 NHL draft. But Sasha Boisvert, super high on my list. Phenomenal freshman campaign with 16 goals and 14 assists for 30 points in his opening 36 games. And they'll be back in action in the NCHC Conference Tournament semifinals, taking on Western Michigan on Friday night after beating Omaha in the first round. Speaking of the NCHC, Aiden Thompson and the Denver Pioneers will be taking on Arizona State, number 2 seeded Arizona State, in the NCHC semifinals on Friday as well, after taking down Colorado College in the first round. So if both of those teams win, would be super cool to see Sasha Boisvert in North Dakota take on Aiden Thompson and the Denver Pioneers in the NCHC championship game. Moving on over to the Hockey East Conference tournament, Ryan Green and Boston University, they are in the Hockey East semifinals taking on UConn Thursday afternoon. UConn was the team who actually knocked out Providence in the first round. So Tage Harding, John Mustard, their bid for a Hockey East Conference championship title has been dashed. However, Providence, according to the USA Hockey rankings, still number 10 as of Monday. So it looks pretty likely that they're going to wind their way into the NCAA tournament. But lots of good stuff and big games coming up throughout the weekend for a handful of Blackhawks prospects. I'll keep you covered on all of it right here on Locked On Blackhawks. And by the way, don't think I'm forgetting about Nick Lardis and the OHL boys. I'll be giving you all an OHL Blackhawks prospects update on tomorrow's episode of Locked On Blackhawks. As I said, no one covers the prospects from a Blackhawks fan's perspective humbly like yours truly. Another reason to go and subscribe to the channel. But that's going to take care of today's episode of Locked On Blackhawks. As always, thank you all again for joining me on the show. Be sure to go and follow Locked On Blackhawks for free wherever you may be listening to your podcast. That way you can tune into the show when you're on your drive to or from work, or during your lunch break, whenever it may be. Again, subscribe to Locked On Blackhawks on YouTube, and that way you can get the video version whenever it's uploaded each and every day. Till the next episode, everyone, enjoy the rest of your Wednesdays. Looks like there's a storm brewing here in the Chicagoland area, so hope everyone stays safe and stays dry. I'll see you on tomorrow's episode of Locked On Blackhawks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.